This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, good morning. So today we will discuss about a new adapter that is called a REST adapter. REST. Okay, so we know there are two types of web services, right? SOAP web service and REST web service. So to create any REST web service, we are going to use REST adapter. So what is this REST service and how to operate this guy? What is the difference between SOAP and REST services? We'll see one by one. Okay. So before we start working with REST adapter, we should know what is JSON. What is JSON and how JSON looks like. So have we discussed about JSON anytime in our earlier sessions?
Yes, sir. Discuss only.
I mean, do you know how to write a JSON?
Yes, sir. This format
You know,
we were
yeah, you know
discussing.
the syntax, right? We discussed about the syntax, how to write a JSON. Okay, of course, it's
Yes.
very simple syntax. We just need to define the simple element. I mean, however, we have the XML, right? So let me give you. I mean, if we already discussed, I think we don't need to worry about it for now. We know how to write JSON in that case. We already discussed it, right? One of the session. So now, guys, by using REST adapter, you can build REST web services. REST web services. SOA REST web services supports JSON data and XML data as well. Both it will be supported. It will support both formats. SOA XML data, JSON data. It can be input or output. Okay. So by using this REST web services, REST web service, this supports, I mean, in SOA, it supports four types of verbs. Okay. Number one, post, get, delete, update. These are the four different verbs supported by Oracle SOA REST web service. What are these verbs? So guys, generally in a web service, we have operations, right? Every web service contains one or more than one operation. Every SOAP web service, right? Similarly, these verbs behaves like operations. I mean, I don't want to call them as operations, but they behaves like operations. But this naming convention is fixed naming convention. You cannot change it. But in SOAP web service, you have an operation. That operation name is completely user defined, correct? But here, this is universal standard, irrespective of technology. Any technology which supports REST web services will they will follow the naming convention. They will follow this verbs naming convention. It's a universal standard. We are not allowed to modify the naming convention. Okay. Of course, let me give you one small diagram. Let's say I'm talking about a REST web service. I'm talking about a REST web service which will accept input. Okay. Just consider this as a REST web service which accepts input and which generates the output. So guys, like WSDL in our SOAP web service, here we have something called WADL file. WADL file, it's the definition file for your REST web service. And you can use either input or output in XML format or JSON format. Both are supported. Input and output are either XML format or JSON format, that we can decide whether we want to process XML data, we want to process JSON data, we have complete control to process the data. Okay, so this is the web service body. In this web service body, you can design whatever the logic you want. Okay. Now see this. I said, right, our web service supports four types of verbs. Post, get, delete, update. Sir, guys, this naming convention is a universal standard naming convention. Of course, we are not allowed to modify it. But what we do with this naming convention? So this is just a, I mean, if suppose, let's say a post verb. If you create a REST web service, with a post verb, okay, I will show you how to configure the post verb. The intention here is you need to design such a logic. Which posts the data. That means, uh, suppose I have a database. Okay, where is it? Let's assume I have a database and I want to post some data. Post data means insert some data. Okay, save some data. Post is something, uh, saving the information, keep the information. Okay, so I want to post some data. I want to store, I mean, a new data. I want to save it in my internal application. It's no need to be database. It's not just database, guys. It can be anything. But the intention, understand the intention. The post verb, we use the post verb when we want to create some new data in our internal application. Let's assume this is our internal application. Database is an example. It can be any internal application. Okay, it can be Oracle apps, it can be CRM application, SFDC application, anything. Okay, so my program will create some new data. Such kind of REST program, we use post verb. Actually, you can design any business logic here, no doubt, in the body of the web service. You can design any kind of business logic. Okay, so there is no limitation. I mean, you can write addition of two numbers, you can write insert data into database table, you can write any logic inside the web service body, no doubt in that. But it is a universal standard. We use post verb. In case we want to create new data in our applications, in our internal applications. It is only an agreement. That's it. It is an only agreement. It doesn't mean if I write addition of two numbers in logic in my program, will it not allow? No, it will allow. You can write any kind of business logic, but only the thing is, make sure the verb what you are using. Based on the verb what you used, people will understand, okay, this program is meant for creation of data. Suppose if I use get verb instead of post verb, if I use get verb. So get means the name itself is saying, right, getting the information. So get verb we use to fetch some data, reading the data. I mean, let's assume uh, I have an employee ID. I want to retrieve the employee details. This is the logic I want to build. I have an employee ID. I want to retrieve the employee details, complete information of the employee. So for this logic, technically this logic I can design under post verb and of course get verb as well. The logic technically possible, but you want to go meaningful, you want to go functional flow, you want to follow the HTTP standards. Get is the suitable verb to fetch some data. So you are asking your program by sending employee ID as input and fetching the employee record, the entire record or entire information of the employee from internal applications, from internal database, internal CRM application, somewhere. Okay. So if you're trying to fetch the data, get is the most suitable verb. Is it clear? But can't we do that fetching the data from internal applications? Can't we do that by using post verb? Yes, technically we can do that, no doubt at all. But post verb is not meant for it. Okay. right? So similarly, we have another verb, put verb, and of course delete verb. Put, sorry, put verb, and also we have delete. So by using put verb we use to update the information. Already I have some information, and I want to update the existing information. Then we go for put verb. I already have information and one of the record I want to delete, then we go for delete verb. Okay, so this is a functional division. But technically every verb is just a program, and you can design anything, any logic inside in it technically, but that's not the way we need to handle the rest web services. We have to follow the industry standard about these verb naming conventions. So the logic, according to the logic and the functionality what we are going to implement, we need to choose the respective verbs. Okay, if I mean can't see this post verb, can't I do addition of two numbers? Yes, you can do. uh, okay, technically yes, you can do that. Okay, but it is, we should be careful while choosing the verbs according to the functionality what we decided to implement. Okay, tell me one thing, everybody, just unmute yourself. I will quickly ask few questions here, try to answer them. Of course, if you give wrong answers, that's not an issue. Okay, please unmute yourself. Tell me, I want to design a program. I want to design a program to create one new employee record. I want to create a new employee record in my internal application by using the REST web service. What is the suitable verb to create a employee?
Put operation, sir.
Sorry?
Put, sir.
Put operation.
Put operation is not for creation. Put operation is for updation. This is for
Then
updation.
Post, sir.
Update. Okay, post is for create. Anything new information you want to create in your application, in your internal applications, then we go for post operation. Suppose I want to fetch an existing employee record. What is the verb suitable to fetch?
get.
Get, sir.
Get is the suitable verb. Search data, okay, or read data. So we use get verb. Suppose I have employee records and I want to delete one record, then we can use delete verb.
Delete.
Delete verb we can use to delete some information from the existing applications. Okay, delete info. Done. Right. So this is the basic information while you are operating with the different verbs. Okay, but technically any kind of logic you can design in every verb. Okay, technically. Done. Now, so guys, this web service, this REST web service, it, I mean, see, as of today, we saw different SOAP web services which accepts XML as input, XML as output, right? So here we have two options: XML as input, XML and JSON as input, XML and JSON as output. Not only XML and JSON, there are something called parameters. So especially there are two types of parameters. There are two types of parameters. Number one, query parameter, and number two, uh, template parameter. Okay, there are two types of parameters we can pass as part of input. Okay, I mean, I will give you an example. If you see this, every REST web service, it has a URL. I'm giving sample only. Okay, it's not exact URL. I'm just giving sample, abc.com slash something. I will say, let's say this is e-commerce business, business. It is USA division. Okay, USA division. and it is this REST service is dealing with orders, just as your orders, and I want to create an order. I want to create an order. Just a naming convention. Just a naming convention. See, guys, in this URL, this part you can consider as URL. This part is the endpoint. This part is the endpoint, or we can say context path. Endpoint or a context path. Context path is more relevant keyword. So this part is called as context path. This context path comes with two types of URL and URL encoded parameters. One is query parameter that looks like this, question mark, let's say order ID is equal to 1001. Here data 1001 is the data, but it is part of your URL. Observe. So this we called it as query parameter. Query parameter. Of course, we can have more than one query parameter as well. Something like this. You need to use end symbol. Customer ID is equal to 2001. So now if you see this URL, we have two query parameters. Okay, order ID and customer ID. Two query parameters. We separate the query parameters with a end symbol. Of course, we have another type of parameter called template parameter. You can use the template parameter as part of your context path. You can use the query parameter as part of your context path. Something like anywhere. It's not end of the URL. Anywhere in the URL, you can introduce template parameters. Okay. So something like this. Suppose here I want to introduce customer ID. Okay, this is my query parameter, sorry, template parameter. If you introduce a parameter as part of the URL, it is called template parameter. So when you are, when you execute this URL, it will be like this. It will be like this. I mean, we don't use the parameter at the time of execution. We use the value. So here 2002 is the query parameter and 1001 is the 2002 is the template parameter and 1001 is the query parameter. So hope you understand the basic syntax, how we supply query parameters and template parameters. I will show you in the example anyway. So total three things we have here. We can supply the input data in the format of query parameters, in the format of template parameters, and in the format of body. Body, which is nothing but XML and JSON format. It's your choice whether you want to process XML data or you want to process JSON data. Is the concept clear for everybody? Shall we go with one example? Okay. If we start one example, it will be more clear for you. So what I want to do is I want to introduce one small example for you. I want to create some data. I mean, I have a database table called order info. In this database table, I want to perform different operations through REST service, through a REST web service, inserting orders, deleting orders, searching orders. Okay, I want to do different operations in my REST service. Okay, with respect to the verbs. Suppose post verb I will use to insert the data. Get verb I will use to search the data. Delete verb I will use to delete the data. Put verb I will use it to update the data. Something like this. I want to design one REST web service to manage orders. Okay, right. I will say, let me go to the JDeveloper. Let me commit the existing code quickly. So you know, right, how to commit the code. We should be You should not miss any required files. If you see practice polling adapter, there are okay, commit the file. Practice polling adapters. I did not committed my files right from few sessions. I did not committed them. Let me commit all of them. Practice adapters application. There are so many files I must commit. JPG not required. Graphics not required. Did I miss anything? Billing system. Okay. Design views select. Okay. MS consumer. Okay, I think almost I covered everything, every required file. Calculate, great. See this. In this guy. MS consumer project. JCA is required. Graphic file not required. DeepL file required. JPG fine. XML log fine. This is required. Exist is required. Composite. Jar file not required. It's this one. JCA file required. Transformation is still jar not required.
Sir,
Polling
text
table.
suite files also.
Test suite files, no need to commit.
Okay, sir.
We don't use them, right, as of now.
Previously we selected this one, sir. That's why.
Okay. Jar file not required. Okay, just rescan. If I left anything, make sure you saved everything, guys. If you don't save the file properly, old data will be committed. Okay. Once double check is everything committed or yeah, I almost covered all the required files. I did not left anything. Okay. Adapters, properties, adapters. Okay, done. I committed everything. Now, git check out. I'm just merging the code into my master branch. Okay. Git pull origin main. Okay, let me commit it. I mean, there is no file missed, but I just double check. Okay, let me start a new branch. Branch feature REST. Okay, I will name it as REST. Okay, now I have a new branch. I have a new branch. Okay, let's start our code. First, what I want to do, I want to create one REST web service which will create data in this table. Okay, I want to expose a post verb which will create the data in this table. Okay, let me do all the prerequisites to fulfill this requirement. Okay, what is that? I mean, create a REST web service which can post order info into DB table. Okay, this is the requirement I want to fulfill. So now what I want to do, go to your JDeveloper. Okay, and now create a new SOA project. You see here SOA tire, SOA application. So creation of SOA project is the regular process. I mean, nothing new in this, right? You can simply create just a new project. Okay, I will say order REST service. Okay, I just want to create one SOA project. I name it as order REST service. Finish. Done. So make sure about the prerequisite. We need a table. How we can do, go to the table, go to SQL worksheet. We can open SQL worksheet. Here you can see SQL worksheet, and we have a DB connection already in my JDeveloper. I'm just using the same DB connection, whichever is already there in my JDeveloper. Okay, let me check if the table already created in my DB. Select star from order underscore info. This is the table name, right? Order info. Yeah. Okay, there is no table with this naming convention. Okay, let's create the table. We are good. Create the table. See this table. What are the fields in this table? Order ID, customer name, item cost, and status. This is the info I want to create. Okay, just create the table. Okay, table is created. This is the prerequisite. Of course, table creation is not our responsibility, right? DB team will take care. But for our practice purpose, we need some infrastructure. So I'm creating table in my own database. Okay, right. So table is ready. Now, how to insert the data into database by using SOA program? We need a database adapter, right? So let's drag drop the adapter. You can give some naming convention. I will say order underscore info. That's it, nothing else. Order underscore info. Okay, and this is the same old configuration. We connect with database, right? We know how to connect with database. You have to provide two connections here. This is the first connection. The first connection is JDeveloper to database connection, and the second connection is the runtime connection. It is SOA server to database connection. So you need to provide exact naming convention of your JNDA. So this is my JNDA available in WebLogic console. Click next. And guys, I want to perform only insert operation here. Going forward, I will extend this adapter as well. But for now, I'm just using insert operation. Click next. Import the table. So we are trying to import the definition of the table here. Structure of the table. Okay, so our table structure, we need order, right? You can search it. Suppose you have many tables, you can search it. A small keyword of table name, percentage symbol, query. So it will show you with this expression, if any table matches, that the table will be displayed here. Select the required table. So I just selected the structure of the table, not the data of the table. Say okay. So now you can see your table structure imported. There is no primary key in the table, so it is asking us to define at least one primary key. I want to define order ID as my primary key. Click next. No relationship tables. And so what are all the fields you want to process by using program? All the fields I want to process. Click next, 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 finish. That's it. So we are ready with one DB adapter. We are ready with DB adapter. Okay. Now let's concentrate on the REST web service. I want to create a REST web service. Okay. So how to create REST web service? We want to configure something called WADL file. Of course, like a SOAP web service. SOAP web service has two parts, right? WSDL and body. Similarly, in the REST web service as well, we have two parts, WADL and body. But before we design it, we should get ready with some sample data. I mean, what kind of input we are trying to supply, what kind of output we are expecting. Okay, let's see this JSON. I'm expecting this kind of input. Just a format. I took a sample. I'm expecting order ID, customer ID, customer name, item cost, and status of the order. Some around 3-6 fields I'm expecting as part of input. This is my sample input. Similarly, I'm also expecting some output. I'm also expecting some output. Not a complex output, a very simple output I will propose here. Order ID, some data, customer ID, some sample data, status. This is order status. Something. Okay. So we must ready with sample. What is the input format you are expecting and what is the output format you are expecting? This data you need to keep it ready. Okay, before you start your program. Done. Now come back to your program. So here I want to design the REST adapter. You can see there are adapters, list of adapters. You can pick the REST adapter. Okay, drag drop the REST adapter in the service component. Of course, you can configure the REST adapter in the reference component as well. If you want to call an external REST web service. Okay, right. So drag drop the REST service. So you can give any naming convention. I will name it as order REST service. Okay, and then guys, here select the checkbox. Service will invoke components using WSDL interface. I mean that this option says that, see, in the external world, it is the external world, and the client whoever is using our REST web service, the client whoever is using our web service, they have a feel that it is a REST web service. I mean, irrespective of technology, they can use this REST service. I mean, they really don't feel the difference. Is it Java REST service? Is it .NET REST service? They really don't care. So REST web service is a REST web service irrespective of technology. But what really happened in SOA program, inside SOA program, this REST web service translated into a SOAP web service. Okay, not SOAP, at least an internal WSDL will be created. External client or our user will see the BADL for sure. Okay, the customer will see the BADL. But internal to our SOA program, this BADL have a parallel mapping with WSDL. Okay, and your BPEL and your web service body processes XML data, not JSON data. I mean, your input may be XML or JSON. When it reaches web service body, it will be converted into XML format. I will show you that in the example. Okay, for that processing, for that XML processing, what happened? There is an internal WADL will be generated. Sorry, internal WSDL will be generated for this WADL. Parallel notation. Okay, so I mean WADL contains post verb. That post verb contains a respective WSDL operation. I will show you that. This is completely internal. This is completely internal, guys, and SOA specific behavior, Oracle SOA specific behavior. It's not for any other technology web services. Okay, let me show you the configuration. So you just select this checkbox. Service will invoke components using WSDL interface. Internally, we will have a WSDL document generated, which is parallel to your WADL. Whatever defined in WADL, everything will be defined into WSDL as well. I will show you. Okay, just simply click next. Now, so guys, here it is asking for the resource path. I told you, I show you an example. Where is it? Yeah, here. This is the resource path. Whatever the context path you want to maintain, the context path. So whatever the context path, this is completely user-defined path, and you can define whichever element you want. I mean, whichever naming convention you want. You can follow your own format. Okay, so it is asking for the path, resource path, or we can also call it as context path. Let me say order, and I want to create an order. Okay, order / create. If you see this URL, let me copy this. I will paste it in my notepad file. See, this is the URL generated with your SOA program, and in this URL, the last section is the resource path or the context path. So remaining part of the URL is predefined. You cannot modify this in SOA program. SOA program, you cannot modify this part, and this part is completely customizable part. We will call it as resource path or context path. Okay, so here you can fill this details. I mean, if you see the URL part here, in this URL part, host name, port number, and partition, these are SOA specific. So we want to test this program. What you need to do, you need to replace the required keywords. I mean, in our case, our host is localhost. In our case, our port is 7101, and the partition name or the folder name is default. I mean, where you deploy your SOA program, that partition you need to give here. Okay, so now this is our REST URL, REST web service URL. Like SOAP web service, we have concrete WSDL URL, right? Similarly, REST web service URL, this is the REST URL. Of course, this URL we can configure query parameters and template parameters. I'm not discussing that point at this point of time. We'll show you. Okay, I will show you even the parameters. Just wait for some examples. Done. So anyway, I'm ready with the resource path. Say okay. So we are ready with the resource path. Now see that respective binding I need to design. This is the REST web service. I told you, right? WADL or the REST web service exposed to the customer, but internally there is a WSDL mapping will be happened. I will show you the WSDL mapping here. So it is asking an operation binding. In this URL, for this URL, you can have operations. So operations are nothing but our verb, post verb, get verb. So you can design multiple verbs here. Okay, let me create click on this plus icon. You can see this, you can decide the verb. As of now, I want to create a post verb, and you can give an operation name. See guys, verb is for REST service, operation is for WSDL document. Okay, WSDL is an internal document. The external world don't know SOA REST service is internally using a WSDL. WSDL is especially meant for SOAP web services, not for REST web services. But this is our internal configuration. This will not be exposed to the outer world. Okay, I will say create operation. Create operation. Okay, guys, HTTP verb is post verb. This we cannot change. See, verbs, we don't have any control to configure them. We have to browse. That's it. Okay, post verb. And see here it is asking request and response. So we need to build request XSD and response XSD with the samples. We already have samples in hand. We have a request sample and response sample. By using this, we can build XSDs, native format XSDs. Let me do that. See, request, what kind of request we are expecting? I'm expecting JSON format request. JSON format request. In the response also I'm expecting JSON format response. Okay. Anyway, first go to the request tab, select the JSON tab, I want to build an XSD. Here you see there is an option called define schema, the same wizard which we used some adapters, right? Here also we have the similar adapter, native format builder. If you click on this icon, if you already have an XSD, you can go for browse option, guys. Okay, if you don't have an XSD, you can build an XSD. So this is the native format builder. Click next. So you can give some naming convention. I will say create order request, create order request XSD. Click next. And my data is always in a JSON format, JSON interchange format. Click next. And here you can see the target namespace. You are going to build an XSD, right? For that you can give a target namespace. I will say practice.com, and this is create order, right? Create slash or order slash create, anything. Order slash create slash, this is request. I just removed everything. So this is the naming convention I am following for my target namespace. Okay, and it is asking for a root element, completely user defined, guys. I will say order create request. Okay, this is the root element I want to design in my XSD, and provide your sample here, JSON sample. Let me provide the JSON sample for my input data, JSON input data. Okay, now click next. So guys, this is one of the place. If you are using JDeveloper 12.2.1.4, there is a bug in the JDeveloper. You cannot build. Okay, you cannot build this widget. You cannot run this widget to build the XSD. I mean, you will see an error when you click next button. You will see an error. That's a bug in your JDeveloper 12.2.1.4. So to fix the bug, I already shared a document with you. See, this is the document. I already shared it with everyone. Okay, so if you go through this document, you will understand how to fix the bug. We need to apply a patch. You will see such kind of error. See, once you provide the sample and if you click next button, you will see an error like this. You are not able to generate the XSD. But to fix it, you need to apply a patch. Two patches you need to apply. So once you apply these two patches, your JDeveloper issue will be resolved. Okay, so I provided every step for your information. You can run all these steps and the issue will be resolved in your JDeveloper. Now come back to JDeveloper. So it's already fixed in my machine, so I am not expecting any error here. So click next. See the XSD generated for my request JSON format. Click next and finish. So this is the request XSD I created with the sample JSON. Similarly, I want to generate response XSD by providing the sample JSON. Okay, I will name it as create order response. Okay, create order response JSON interaction. You can give the proper convention practice.com, and this is order create response. Okay, this is my target namespace. So here create order response is my root element. Create order response is my root element. Okay, and provide the sample. This is my sample. Done. Click next. Next. Finish. So we are ready with request XSD and response XSD. Okay, request XSD and response XSD, and then say OK. Then see, this is the binding created. Binding created. Say finish. Okay, observe what are all the files created, guys. Save everything. Now, if you observe order rest service, right? Order rest service related files. See, there is a file called Waddle. Waddle. Open it. This is something like your Visital. Okay. Visital document is for SOAP web service. Waddle document is for REST web service. See this Waddle document. Here you can see the resource or the context path, which contains a method. Okay, so not only one method, guys, you can define for this context path, you can define more than one method as well, more than one verb. You can define get verb, post verb, delete verb, put verb on the same endpoint. It's a combination. The URL is a combination. Endpoint is important and verb also important. So it's a unique combination. Okay, so this is how you can see the Waddle file. Of course, there is a Visital file also configured, but this is for internal mapping only. This customer never access the REST web service by using Visital. This is only internal purpose. Okay, here you can see the internal operation, create operation. Create operation. We created this naming convention right at the time of REST adapter configuration. Here you see in this binding, we only manually provided the operation name, create operation. Okay, for this post verb, okay, done. So we observe one Waddle, we can observe one Visital, and you can also observe your request XSD, create order request XSD. This is our create order request XSD. Observe the root element. We provided the root element at the time of XSD generation. Similarly, we have a response XSD. Okay, so these are all the files generated. Close the files. From here onwards, it is your regular web service, guys. Just drag drop a BPL process. And I don't want any service, so I selected no service. Say OK. Simply create the wire. Create the binding. I mean, your service component to BPL component, one wire is required, and then BPL component to DB adapter, another wire is required. So that way you establish the connection between REST adapter to BPL to database. So we can go inside BPL. Let me complete this configuration. It is taking time. Once this wiring part completed, we can go inside the BPL. We can open the BPL for the remaining business logic configuration. Taking so much time. Okay, this wire is done. Similarly, create a wire. Okay, save it. Now open your BPL process. So this is, I mean, irrespective of partner link, what type of partner link it is, our business logic, the way how we design the business logic will not change. So the first, we need either receive activity or pick activity. Okay, we need either receive activity or pick activity to accept the request. So let me get a pick activity here. I want to use pick activity. configure the on message branch. First we need to select the create instance. Okay, and then go to on message branch. Which one I want to use as my partner link? REST service. REST service is my service component, and create variable. I will say create order, create order input variable. Okay, done. So our receive activity or on message branch is ready. Now I want to call the database by using invoke activity. So this is here, invoke, insert order. Okay, insert order. You need to make sure the operation what you are selecting here. As of now, our DB adapter contains only one operation, so there is no confusion. But if your DB adapter, you configure the DB adapter with multiple operations, you need to make sure what is the operation you are selecting in this invoke. Okay, under the input variable section, create the invoke input variable, done, apply, and okay. Now copy the data from the input variable to database variable, copy the required data, just do the required mappings. I'm not really concentrating on the complex logic here. A simple data transformation we are doing. Customer name, item cost, and the status. Okay, done. So once you are ready with the data mapping, so finally you need to replay the response. You need to replay the response, right? So I will replay the response to the REST adapter. For this, we need to use some variable, create operation output variable. Okay, or create order output variable. Done. Replay. Create order. Done. So what you want to replay, whatever, I mean, in the output variable, you need to fill the data. I'm just filling, it's a dummy data. It's not really a complex data. Simple data I want to fill, order ID. Where we can get the order ID? I can get the order ID from my input variable. From input variable to output variable, I copy the data. Customer ID from input variable to output variable, I will copy. Order status, I want to name it as, I just want to give a static data. I will say, okay, order created into internal application. Okay, some message, a meaningful message I'm just passing in the order status. Done. So we are ready. We are ready with web service. What we are doing, I receive the input, and then I'm inserting the data into table. Once it is successfully completed, I'm hard coding my response. Response will go back to my REST adapter. Okay, so now you can deploy this and test this program. See, this is the partition name or the folder name, right? Where we are deploying. I'm using default partition. Okay, is it deployed? Build successful, waiting for deployment. Okay, so to test the REST web service, guys, of course, we can test the REST web service by using SOAP UI. We have a REST option here, if you see. So other than SOAP UI, you can also use a tool called Postman. Postman is the most used tool, especially to test the REST services. Okay, most widely used across industry. So let me show you how to test this REST service, irrespective of technology. Any technology REST service you can test by using Postman. Okay, let me see if the program deployed. It is taking time. Okay, so anyway, if you want to test the REST service, first you need the endpoint. So this is the syntax to get the endpoint. If you go to the REST adapter, here you can see, double click on this resource path. You can see the syntax of your REST service, Okay, I already copied this in my notepad file. You can see the notepad file. See, this is the URL I got from the SOA program REST adapter, and I need to fill the details: host name, port number, and partition name. My partition name is default. And I'm using localhost in 7101, and the remaining URL will stay as is. And along with this, you also know the verb. So the verb is post verb. Okay, this combination you need to use to test the web service. Okay, without this combination, you cannot test it. Let's see. If you go to, once the deployment completed, see deployment completed, right? My deployment completed. So what I want to do, I want to test my web service. So go to Postman. See, this is a new Postman. There is a plus icon. Just click on this plus icon. You can provide your URL. This is my URL. Okay, and see this, guys. Here you need to select the verb. I'm using post verb. Okay, and if you go to body section, body. So what kind of body you want to give? An XML, sorry, a JSON. I want to give a JSON data. So select the raw format, and the type of the data. Type of the data is JSON. Okay, then you provide your data. So I already have a data with me. Yeah, this is my data format. Provide the data here. Okay, and then simply submit the request. Wait for the response, guys. If everything is good, you will get the response. See here, see, observe this one. Status is very important. 200. Okay, post verb success status response is 200. Success status response always comes as 200. It is not our data related status, guys. This is HTTP status. We call it as HTTP status. Post verb executed without any errors, then the post verb will return 200 as the success response. Okay, anyway, this is our response data. Okay, so we submitted data one time. So just check the table. Is the data available in the table or not? Select query. See whether your data inserted into the table or not. Okay, our data inserted into the table. Let me test it once again. This time I will change the order ID, change something just to maintain the uniqueness. Submit. So order ID 1002 created. Let's go to the table and search the table. Sorry. See, two order IDs created, 1001 and 1002. Of course, you can go to Enterprise Manager and open your instance and see. I mean, it is taking time for me to log in into Enterprise Manager. Anyway, you log in into Enterprise Manager and you can see two instances must be available for this service. Open each instance and understand what are all executed, what each activity is doing. Okay, so this is one basic REST service, how we can execute in SOA program. It's not over. There are so many other things we need to discuss. We'll continue in the next session. Okay, any questions?